Everyone, and welcome back to another video. And today's story is coming out of Indiana. But before I get started, I just want to say that if you enjoy these videos and the commentary, please like this video and share it. And don't forget to subscribe for more content so that we can grow this channel. All right, so let's get into the story. All right, Indiana school superintendent arrested for allegedly using own insurance to help sick student. The student does not live with his parents but is under the care of a relative. The superintendent told police she grew worried about him when he did not show up for school. Wow, she must have some type of bond with this student or something if she was worried when a child didn't show up to school. I mean, when I was coming up, nobody was worried if you missed a day of school. So she must have a special bond with this student. And why this student didn't have their own insurance, I don't know. Apparently, there's some troubles going on in the student's life because the student is not living with the parents, but living with a relative. And if the student was really sick, I'm wondering why going to an emergency room wasn't an option. But let's read on. The superintendent of an Indiana school district was arrested and faces fraud charges for allegedly using her son's name, wow, to help a sick student receive medical treatment. Now, that is clearly health insurance fraud. You cannot receive care under another person's name. I mean, that's common sense. She's a superintendent. I'm quite sure she knew that, but maybe she outweighed, the risk, and her wanting to help this child was more important than these crimes, which I'm not sure if they're federal or state crimes, but it's definitely a crime. And not to mention, now on her son's medical record, there's probably going to be some type of illness on there that he really didn't have. So I understand why she did it, but at the end of the day, there were probably other options for this student. So I guess, hopefully the article will explain why she felt that she had to commit a serious crime to help this student get medical care. Casey Smitherman, the superintendent of Elwood Community School Corporation, was charged with insurance fraud, identity deception, insurance application fraud, and official misconduct, court documents show. So she has, how many charges is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 charges, and they all sound serious. You cannot, and I know people do it, but it is against the law to have insurance using someone else's insurance to get prescriptions in other people's names. They're all very serious crimes. And while, again, she had a good heart, I believe, and for some reason she's really invested in this student, he has tugged at her heartstrings. At the end of the day, what she did, according to our society here in the United States, was wrong. Okay, here's a picture of her. Police in Elwood, Indiana said they received a tip that Smitherman took a 15-year-old student to urgent care on January 9 after the teenager missed school because he had a sore throat, according to a probable cause affidavit. Okay, so she took him to an urgent care, which was probably under her insurance, because we have urgent care centers where I live, but they're under like a Kaiser or Aetna or whatever. Some type of health insurance runs that urgent care. But we also have hospitals. Has she ever heard of that thing called a hospital that has an emergency room? Why didn't she take him to the emergency room to get care if she was that concerned? He missed school that day. So what does that mean? Did she go to his house, pick him up, and then take him to the urgent care? Why didn't she tell the relative to do it, to take him to the emergency room? Again, I'm not being, I'm not upset with her, but I'm just trying to understand why an educated woman would think that it would be okay to, to falsify insurance information. Madison County prosecutor, Rodney Cummings, told NBC that Smitherman took the student to one urgent care location but was denied because she is not his guardian. That's when Smitherman took the student to St. Vincent Med in Elwood and used her insurance to have the student evaluated under her son's name, Cummings said. Okay, so she went to one place. She told the truth. I'm not his parent, but he needs care. So she went to another place and said, well, it didn't work. I need to just pretend that he's my child because he can't get care. Again, there was probably some other options in this case, especially if he was seriously ill and needed treatment. You know, did she have a conversation with the relatives that the person was living with? Did the relatives not care that this child was sick and that's why she intervened? You know, what made her decide to say, you know what, I'm just going to pretend that you're my child? Smitherman told police that she was worried about the student when he did not show up for school, and she went by his house and saw that he was ill, according to the affidavit. A superintendent, not the principal, but a superintendent went to your, knows that you're not in school. At her level, how would she know that this one student wasn't in school? There has to be some type of relationship between her and the student because she's personally invested in this student because she's a superintendent. She's in a whole nother building in that school. Now I can understand if they said the principal of the school, you know, realized the child wasn't in school that day, but a superintendent, that means she had to personally herself check to see if that student was in school that day. All right, so that's kind of odd. That's kind of weird. There's some type of relationship between her and the student, and that's just my conspiracy theory. She said after leaving urgent care, she went to a CVS pharmacy to have a prescription filled for the amoxicillin, again using her insurance and son's name. Sutherland said she did not contact child welfare authorities because she feared the student would be placed in a foster home. Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Why is she so personally invested in this child that she wouldn't call for some type of help? Even if she didn't call the welfare authorities, did she try to contact the parents? Is this child living on their own? You know, what's happening? Is the child really with a relative? You know, something going on here that this article is not explaining or it has not been exposed. Smitherman also said that she has helped the student in the past by buying clothes for him and cleaning his home, the affidavit states. See, that's what I'm saying. This is just weird. You know, is a child living by herself or, you know, living by his or herself? Or is the people, the relatives that he's living with, are they elderly? Are they sick? You know, what is the deal here? Because this superintendent right here is telling you she's personally invested in him or her because well, it says him, so it exposes that it's a boy. The article exposes that it is a boy. So she's personally invested in him. And that's how she knew that he wasn't coming to school, that he missed school that day. You know, so she was probably every day checking to make sure he was in school because it looks like she was helping to take care of him. Is this somebody that she knows from family or friend? You know, give us a little bit more information about this relationship. Cummings said the student does not live at the home with his parents and is under the care of a relative. Authorities contacted the student, who told him that he knew it was bad to be in possession of someone else's prescription, so he tore the label off the pill bottle. And that's probably because she told him to tear that label off the pill bottle. I'm quite sure a 15-year-old, you know, is not thinking, oh, I need to tear this label off. She probably instructed him, look, here's your prescription, because she's probably done it before. Here's your prescription, take the label off. You know, because she's so personally invested in this child. I'm kind of thinking that this is not the first time that she's done this. Smitherman was arrested and released after posting a $500 cash bond, according to court records. A court date has not yet been set, but Smitherman will most likely end up paying a fine and possibly doing community service, Cummings said. Oh, and they forgot to add she's going to have to repay the insurance company, and she better pray that the insurance company doesn't drop her, and then she becomes a high risk insurer because she's committed insurance fraud, and it's going to be hard for her to get insurance for herself and her family members, which this situation puts them at risk too. But she wasn't thinking about all that because she let her heart overtake her common sense. Elwood Community School Corporation said in a statement Thursday that Smitherman made an unfortunate mistake and she has their support. We understand it was out of the concern for this child's welfare. We know she understands what she did was wrong, but she continues to have our support, the district said in a statement to the Herald Bulletin. So, I understand. I just want to make sure this is the end of the article. Yeah. So I understand why she did it, okay, because the child was sick and she felt like he needed health care that he didn't have access to. But my question is, first of all, why doesn't this child have access to health care? Because I thought that was a law that, children could get coverage no matter what their situation is. I could be wrong, but I thought that Hillary Clinton worked on passing the bill for health care for all children. And this child is 15 years old. So why didn't the child have health care? Why wasn't the child just taken to a regular emergency room? It sounded like they went to an urgent care center, unless the urgent care is the same as an emergency room in their state. I know in my state we have urgent care centers that are normally run under health insurance companies, but maybe a minor is not allowed to walk into an emergency room on their own. I don't know. The relatives, who are these relatives? Why did she feel that she had to take him to the hospital to get treatment and not talk with the relatives? How did she even know the boy wasn't even in school that day unless she was checking on him every day? And apparently she was, she had some personal involvement with this boy because she was cleaning his house, buying him clothes. She was helping to care for the child. So there's something going on in this relationship between them two. She knows this child very well, where she's probably looking out for him, making sure he's in school, and mentoring him possibly, so there's something that is going on in this whole relationship. This article touched the surface of things, but I think the story goes in much deeper. Now, because of this, I'm quite sure she risks losing her health insurance coverage, because now her record is going to state that she has committed insurance fraud. What insurance company is going to want to keep you if now they think you'll commit fraud? And if they don't keep you and they kick you off, when you try to get other insurance, it may be harder for you to get. So that puts you and your family at risk of not being able to get health coverage in the future. So I understand, and I'm not being hard on her. I understand, but sometimes you have to use common sense. She didn't want to call child welfare, and I'm quite sure that wasn't the only option that she had to call child welfare. It was probably other things that she could have done. So I understand that, because if you get child protective services involved in your home life, that can be a nightmare if you're innocent or not innocent. So I understand her not wanting to call child welfare services. And the fact that the superintendent wouldn't just call them lets me know she has a personal relationship with this child. But at the end of the day, you cannot commit crimes, especially when you know better. So I don't know why she didn't explore the other areas to get him help, or just tell him walk into that emergency room and have them call your relatives. It's like, who are these relatives he's staying with? I'm almost thinking the boy is living on his own, and there's really no relatives. And she didn't want to call to get him placed in foster care. That's what I'm thinking. truth be told, if she cares that much about him, why don't she try to adopt? Or why don't she try to be his foster parent? Or why won't she see if the parents will sign over rights to her to take care of him, to be his guardian? I don't know how all that legal stuff works, but she seems like she cares a lot about him. Maybe she needs to take this to the next step. So hopefully this situation will work out for her. She won't she won't get jail time. I don't think she should get jail time. And I'm hoping that will be able to keep her health insurance coverage, or if she can't keep this particular health insurance coverage, that she'll be able to get other health insurance coverage. But let's let this be a lesson. I mean, and I think everybody, including myself, have learned lessons about letting your heart sometime take over common sense. You know, sometimes you can be led by the heart, but sometimes it's not good. You have to look at all of the consequences of what your heart can lead you into, especially even if you're having good intentions. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again, hopefully tomorrow. Bye.